In this video, we see about posterior uveitis. So, lessons from 10x rule book. Aim 10 times higher and do 10 times more. You should set targets for yourself that are 10 times greater than what you believe you can achieve. And you should take actions that are 10 times greater than what you believe are necessary to achieve your goals. So, massive action should be there. And your thoughts and actions are the reason you are where you are right now. Do not follow the pack, lead the pack, and time management is more about knowing your priorities clearly than finding the balance. Focus on opportunities and don't worry how much work it is, think about the result. Clinical features of posterior uveitis. Symptoms are blurred vision and floaters. Pain, redness, photophobia are typically absent unless anterior chamber inflammation is present. Note: panuveitis describes a pattern of severe diffuse inflammation of both anterior and posterior segments, often bilateral, and endophthalmitis or posterior scleritis should be considered in patients with posterior uveitis and with significant pain. Signs are cells in the posterior vitreous and vitreous haze and retinal or choroidal inflammatory lesions and the retinal vasculitis, sheathing and exudates around the vessels. Other signs are anterior and intermediate signs indicative of panuveitis and retinal neovascularization, CME, ERM, and choroidal neovascular membranes. Panuveitis causes are idiopathic after ruling out other causes and infectious causes. Tuberculosis, syphilis, Lyme's, and leptospirosis and infectious endophthalmitis. Immune-related causes are sarcoidosis, weak age syndrome, sympathetic ophthalmitis, and Behçet's disease. So, for example, in a 10-year history of recurrent bilateral granulomatous uveitis with waxing and waning exudative retinal detachment and on steroids, there is Koepi and Busaka nodules on the iris and extensive pigment alterations in the fundus and Dehlen fudge-like peripheral nodules with subretinal fibrosis. So this case is VKH disease, which is bilateral granulomatous iridocyclitis with variable vitritis and exudative retinal detachments. So associated with extraocular features important in the diagnosis. Series of pleocytosis, neck stiffness, seizures and paralysis, vitiligo, alopecia and poliosis. Hearing loss and tinnitus are associated features. In a 50-year-old diabetic patient with blurry vision, there is peripapillary atrophy and areas of RPE atrophy with underlying large choroidal vessels are visible and pigments in a bony specule pattern adjacent to the vessel. So our DD for this case is hereditary retinitis pigmentosa and sequelae of autoimmune disease and toxic etiologies like chloroquine and thyroidazine and sequelae of infectious diseases like tuberculosis, syphilis and Lyme's disease. So when we do the RPR test, it is reactive. So case comes as syphilis. So syphilis is a great masquerader. Management include ocular involvement to be treated as neurosyphilis and CSF evaluation should be done in any syphilitic uveitis. Penicillin G 2 to 5 million units IV 4 hourly for 2 weeks and steroids only after effective antibiotic therapy. Syphilis is a great masquerader. Secondary syphilis manifestations are granulomatous iridocyclitis and iris roseola and iris papillosa and iris nodosa, focal or multifocal choroiditis and retinitis, perivasculitis and papillitis and neuroretinitis. Infection with the Treponema pallidum, uveitis may occur during secondary and tertiary stages. So uncommon bilateral in 50%. So iridocyclitis initially may be associated with dilated vessels, that is roseola, and becomes chronic unless treated. Posterior syphilitic uveitis different presentations are unifocal chorioretinitis, may be bilateral, frequently juxtapapillary or central in location, and multifocal chorioretinitis may be bilateral, residual choroidal atrophy and RPE changes will be there. Acute neuroretinitis, usually unilateral disc edema and macular star and cotton wool spots will be there. And inactive neuroretinitis, optic atrophy, vascular non-perfusion and RPE changes will be there. 35-year-old male patient with blurry vision. There is hypopyon uveitis and non-granulomatous and vitritis is there. So when we do the Mantoux test, it is highly positive and chest X-ray suggestive of tuberculosis. So tuberculosis manifestations in the eye are chronic iridocyclitis granulomatous or non-granulomatous also. Choroiditis may be focal or multifocal or choroidal tubercles will be there, and retinal vasculitis, vitritis and papillitis. Difficulty in establishing the diagnosis and ensuring the treatment compliance. So MTB or MBOVIS, uveitis is uncommon and occur during post-primary stage. So there is lung cavitation. Negative chest X-ray doesn't exclude tuberculosis. A positive skin test useful in diagnosis of extrathoracic tuberculosis. Chronic granulomatous iridocyclitis manifestations are mutton fat capes, coipes nodules, Busaka nodules. And post-uveitis manifestations of TB are choroiditis unifocal or multifocal and large solitary granuloma and retinal periphlebitis. A 46-year-old lady with floaters, there is granulomatous keratic precipitates and aqueous cells and flare. On chest X-ray and serum ACE, there is elevated ACE level and hilar lymphadenopathy is there, confirms the diagnosis of sarcoidosis. DD of granulomatous iridocyclitis include infectious like TB, syphilis and Lyme's, and non-infectious sarcoidosis and VKH syndrome. So sarcoidosis, there is granulomatous capes and bilateral hilar lymphadenopathy and conjunctival follicles and non-caseating granuloma. So sarcoidosis is multi-system granulomatous disease. Ocular findings include acute or chronic granulomatous iridocyclitis with vitreous snowballs and retinal periphlebitis and candle wax drippings and choroidal small or large granuloma. So sarcoidosis suspect in any uveitis, we have to do chest X-ray, serum ACE and lysozyme and biopsy from skin or conjunctiva or lacrimal gland. Management include corticosteroids, topical, periocular and systemic. Immunosuppressives may be required. So if the patient has aphthous ulcer along with hypopyon iritis and occlusive vasculitis and sheathing and optic atrophy, it is Behçet disease. So Behçet is generalized occlusive vasculitis. Four major criteria are oral aphthous ulcer, genital ulcer, skin erythema nodosum and ocular inflammation, acute iritis with transient hypopyon and retinal arteritis and periphlebitis and vitritis. Ocular disease recurrent and explosive, initial immunosuppressive is indicated. Next we come to white dot syndromes. So these come as a differential diagnosis for posterior uveitis. First one is acute posterior multifocal placoid pigment epitheliopathy, APMPPE. So acute vision loss in young adults often after a viral illness. Multiple creamy yellow-white plaque-like subretinal lesions in both eyes. Lesions block early and stain late in fluorescein angiography, usually spontaneously improves over weeks to months without treatment. May be associated with cerebral vasculitis. Consider magnetic resonance angiography if patient has headache or other neurological symptoms, in which case the systemic steroids are indicated. Next white dot syndrome is Meadows. So multiple evanescent white dots syndrome. So photopsia and acute unilateral vision loss often after viral illness and usually in young women may have a shimmering scotoma. Uncommonly bilateral or sequential, characterized by multiple small white deep lesions in the retina or at the level of retinal pigment epithelium with foveal granularity and occasionally vitreous cells. Fluorescein angiography may show classic perifoveal wreath-like pattern. There is often an enlarged blind spot on the formal visual field testing. Vision typically returns to normal within weeks without treatment. Birdshot chorioretinopathy, usually middle-aged patients with bilateral multiple creamy yellow spots deep to the retina, approximately 1 mm in diameter, scattered throughout the fundus but most prominently in the inferior quadrants. A mild to moderate vitritis is present. Retinal vasculitis, CME, and optic nerve edema may be present. Indocyanine green angiography shows characteristic hypofluorescent spots, but fluorescent angiography often show only retinal vasculitis, CME, and quenching of dye. Positive HLA-A 29 in 95 to 100% of patients. Early systemic immunosuppression often recommended. And multifocal choroiditis with pan-uveitis. Visual loss in young myopic women, typically bilateral, multiple small round pale inflammatory lesions similar to histoplasma are located at the level of pigment epithelium and choroid capillaries. Unlike histoplasmosis, vitritis occurs in 98% of patients. The lesions can occur in the macula and mid-periphery and frequently respond to oral and periocular steroids, but typically recur with tapering so that immunosuppressive therapy is often necessary. Choroidal neovascularization is common, and so patients should return for urgent evaluation if they have decreased vision or metamorphopsia. Next, punctate inner chorioretinopathy. So, blurring vision, paracentral scotoma, and or photopsia usually in the young myopic women. Multiple small round yellow white spots predominantly in the posterior pole with minimal intraocular inflammation. Lesions become well demarcated atrophic scars within weeks, and CNV develop in 40%, and systemic immunosuppression usually indicated. Serpiginous choroidopathy, typically a bilateral recurrent chorioretinitis characterized by acute lesions, yellow-white subretinal patches with indistinct margins bordering the old atrophic scars. The chorioretinal changes usually extend from optic disc outward. However, one-third may begin in the macula. Patients are typically aged between 30 to 60 years, and systemic immunosuppression is indicated, and CNV may develop and must be distinguished from serpiginous pattern of tuberculous chorioretinitis. Next, DDA posterior is toxocariasis. Typically unilateral, usually occur in children. Most common presentations are macular granuloma, elevated white retinal or subretinal lesion with poor vision, and unilateral intermediate uveitis with peripheral granuloma or endophthalmitis. Peripheral lesion may be associated with fibrous band extending to the optic disc, sometimes resulting in macular vessel dragging. A severe vitritis and anterior uveitis may be present. A negative undiluted toxocara titer in an immunosuppressive host usually rule out this disease, and presumed ocular histoplasmosis syndrome is another DD. Punched out chorioretinal scars with peripapillary atrophy, often CNV, will be there, and vitreous cells are absent in histoplasma. So this is toxocara. Always unilateral. One of the presentation is chronic endophthalmitis, presents between 2 to 9 years of age with leukocoria or strabismus. Next is posterior pole granuloma, present between 6 to 14 years with vision loss. Next, optic nerve granuloma, present between 6 to 14 years with vision loss. And next is peripheral granuloma, present during adolescent or adult life with vision loss. Next is presumed ocular histoplasmosis syndrome, histoplasma capsulatum. Vitreous is never involved in this disease. Atrophic histospots will be there. Another presentation is peripapillary atrophy and peripheral streaks of chorioretinal atrophy and choroidal neovascularization. Next is CMV retinitis. So whitish patches of necrotic retina are mixed with retinal hemorrhage, vascular sheathing, secondary frosted branched angiitis in about 20% of the eyes. Vitritis and anterioritis are usually mild. Seen in immunocompromised patients, most commonly advanced HIV, but also inherited or iatrogenic disorders of the immune system, rarely after periocular or intravitreal steroid injections and congenitally infected neonates. So indolent CMV retinitis frequently starts in periphery with granular opacification and slow progression, no vasculitis and mild vitritis. Acute retinal necrosis, unilateral or bilateral peripheral white patches of thickened necrotic retina with vascular sheathing that progresses rapidly. Marked vitritis and anterior uveitis are typically present. And progressive outer retinal necrosis, clinically similar to ARN but may not have vitreous cells, involves posterior polar optic nerve early and classically spares the vessels. Occurs exclusively in severely immunocompromised patients, especially advanced HIV, with rapid progression over several days. And toxoplasmosis unilateral retinal lesion may or may not associated with adjacent pigment chorioretinal scar or clumps of scar, focal dense vitritis candida, early discrete drusen-like choroidal lesions progressing to yellow-white fluffy retinal or pre-retinal lesions. So this is fulminating CMV retinitis with dense white confluent opacification, frequently along the vascular arcade associated with hemorrhage, and may be associated with venous sheathing and mild vitritis. And progression of CMV retinitis, brush fire-like extension along the course of retinal blood vessel and optic nerve head involvement, and extensive retinal atrophy and retinal detachment will be the late-stage features. Treatment of CMV retinitis, systemic ganciclovir initially IV then oral, and intravitreal injections are slow release devices also given. Foscarnet intravenous, cidofovir intravenous. Signs of regression of CMV are fewer hemorrhages and less opacification and diffuse atrophic and pigmentary changes. Next, AIDS features are opportunistic infection, pneumocystis, carinea pneumonia, candidiasis, toxoplasma, atypical mycobacteria, CMV, and cryptococcus, Kaposi sarcoma, neoplasm, and lymphoma. So, anti-segment features are multiple molluscum contagiosum, eyelid Kaposi sarcoma, and conjunctival Kaposi sarcoma, and severe herpes zoster ophthalmicus, and peripheral herpes simplex keratitis, and microspheroidal keratitis. HIV retinal microangiopathy in 66% of AIDS, in 40% of AIDS-related complex, in 1% of asymptomatic HIV. Transient cotton wool spots will be seen and occasionally hemorrhages. Other fundus regions are choroidal pneumocystosis and progressive outer retinal necrosis, and atypical toxoplasmosis and cryptococcal choroiditis and candidiasis and large cell lymphoma. Acute retinal necrosis affects healthy individuals bilateral in 30 to 50%, herpes simplex in young patients, herpes zoster in older patients, peripheral vasculitis, deep multifocal yellow necrotic infiltrates, vitritis and antiuveitis, and confluence but sparing of posterior pole until late, and residual RP atrophy after 4 to 12 weeks. Acute retinal necrosis treatment, systemic cyclovir, steroids, and aspirin, laser photocoagulation to limit the progression. Complications are retinal detachment and ischemic optic neuropathy. Toxoplasmosis, intracellular protozoan Toxoplasma gondii. Cat is definitive host. Other animals and humans are intermediate hosts. Congenital systemic involvement. So, severity of involvement of fetus depend on duration of gestation at the time of maternal infestation. Infestation during late pregnancy may cause hydrocephalus and chorioretinal scarring at the macula, which may be bilateral. Toxoplasma retinitis, recurrence of healed congenital lesion, usually between 10 to 35 years. Unifocal retinitis adjacent to old scar heals within 1 to 4 months, and vitritis may be severe headlight in fog appearance. And treatment options indications are lesions at the posterior pole near the optic disc or major blood vessel, and very severe vitritis. AIDS patient irrespective of location severity. Drugs are systemic steroids, clindamycin, sulfonamide, pyrimethamine, cotrimoxazole, azithromycin, and atovaquone. So fundus picture showing classical cracked mud appearance in progressive outer retinal necrosis. So candida retinal infection with yeast-like fungus like candida albicans. Risk factors are drug addicts or immunocompromised host. Patient with long-term indwelling catheters. So progression or unifocal choroiditis, multifocal retinitis with vitreous cotton ball colonies, and endophthalmitis and vitreoretinal tractions are features. Next, vasculitis, retinal sheathing around the vessel. So, branched retinal vein and branched retinal occlusions may also occur. So, periphlebitis predominantly involves the veins. So, causes are sarcoidosis, candle wax exudates around the veins, syphilis, and pars planatis. Most prominent in the inferior periphery, neovascularization may be present. And Eales disease, peripheral neovascularization under avascular retina, and multiple sclerosis and birdshot chorioretinopathy. Arteritis, predominantly arteries, insular arteritis, polyarteritis nodosa, and frost branch angiitis, and Churg-Strauss, ARN, IRWAN, and both arteries and veins are systemic lupus erythematosus and granulomatosis with polyangiitis vaginus and Behçet and HLA-B27 associated. So, SLE, multi-system autoimmune connective disorder of type 3 hypersensitivity, affect heart, nervous system, skin, lung and blood vessel, liver and kidney. 15 to 45-year women most common, and labs are ANA, anti-neutrophilic antibody, malar butterfly rash will be there. Clinical findings are ocular manifestation in 50%, keratoconjunctivitis sicca 20%, and lupus retinopathy, cotton wool spot, and cutaneous lesions in the eyelid, and scleral inflammatory disease, and neuro-ophthalmic disorders, and retinal vasculopathy. In rare case, uveitis will be there. Polyarteritis nodosa and microscopic polyangiitis, systemic vasculitis, necrotizing inflammation of medium and small sized arteries, 40 to 60 years men, hepatitis B association is there, ocular movement involvement in 20%, mortality rate of untreated PAN is 90% by 5 years. Labs are Priyanka, ESR, CRP and tissue biopsy. So Wegener granulomatosis triad are necrotizing granulomatous vasculitis of upper and lower respiratory tract, glomerulonephritis, and necrotizing vasculitis of small arteries and which involvement of paranasal sinuses is characteristic. Ocular involvement in 50%, orbit involvement cause pseudotumor, cellulitis and dacrocystitis, anterior and intermediate or posterior uveitis and scleritis, necrotizing uveitis and retinal vascular involvement, diagnosis by tissue biopsy, chest X-ray, CRP, ESR and Sianka. Other infectious causes of posterior uveitis are cat's scratch disease, unilateral stellate macular exudate and optic nerve swelling and vitreous cells and positive Bartonella serology, and diffuse unilateral subacute neuroretinitis, typically unilateral vision loss in children and young adults caused by a nematode. Optic nerve swelling and vitreous cells and deep gray white retinal lesions are present initially but may be subtle. Later, optic atrophy and narrowing of retinal vessels and atrophic pigment epithelial changes develop. Vision, visual field, and ERG deteriorate with the time, and treatment is to laser the nematode. So, this is nematode. And Lyme disease produce varied forms of posterior uveitis, nocardia, coccidiosis, and Aspergillus species Cryptococcus, meningococcus, and Archocerciasis cysticercosis also cause the posterior uveitis. Causes of vitreous ulcer, ocular ischemia, spillover from anterior uveitis, masquerade syndrome. Always consider this in very young or old age. And large cell lymphoma, persistent vitreous cells in patients of more than 50 years, which usually do not respond completely to systemic steroids. Yellow to white subretinal infiltrate and retinal edema and hemorrhage and antechamber inflammation or neurological signs may be present. Malignant melanoma, retinal detachment associated with vitritis may obscure underlying tumor. Retinitis pigmentosa, vitreous cells and macular edema may accompany the waxy pallor, and rhegmatogenous RD, small number of pigmented anterior vitreous and antechamber cells frequently accompany the RD. Uveitis due to chronic retinal detachment. Schwarz-Matsuo syndrome is one of the masquerade syndrome. And retained intraocular foreign body, persistent inflammation after penetrating ocular injury may have iris heterochromia diagnosed by indirect ophthalmoscopy, gonioscopy, ultrasound, UVM, CT of the globe. Retinoblastoma almost always occur in young children, may also present with pseudohypophia and vitreous cells. One or more elevated white retinal lesions are usually but not always present. Leukemia, unilateral retinitis and vitritis may occur in patients already known to have leukemia. Prompt laboratory testing include complete blood count with differential and antechamber paracensis for histology and immunostaining usually diagnostic. Amyloidosis, retrolenticular footplate-like deposits and vitreous globules or vitreous membranes without any signs of anterior segment inflammation. Serum protein electrophoresis and diagnostic vitrectomy confirm the diagnosis. Asteroidosis, small weight refractile body calcium soaps adherent to the collagen fibrils and floating in the vitreous, usually asymptomatic and are of no clinical significance. Investigations are complete history and review of systems. Ask about systemic disease or infection, skin rash, intravenous abuse, indwelling catheter, risk factors for AIDS, and a recent eye trauma surgery, travel to Mississippi, Ohio River Valley, southwestern United States, New England, and exposures like tick bite. Complete ocular examination include IOP measurement and careful ophthalmological examination, indirect ophthalmoscopy with scleral depression of oral serrata. So consider fluorescein angiography for diagnosis or therapeutic planning, and blood test. Any of the following may be obtained depending on suspected diagnosis. Toxoplasma titer, ACE level, serum lysozyme, RPR or BDR, FDA antibody, treponemal assay, ESR, ANA, HLA, B51 for Brexit, 829 for birdshot retinopathy, Toxocara titer, Lyme simplex, Lyme's antibody in neonates or immunocompromised patients. Consider checking titers of CMV, herpes, varicella, and rubella. Cultures of blood and IV sites may be helpful when infectious etiologies are suspected. PCR techniques are available for varicella zoster and herpes simplex, CMV, toxoplasma, and Mantoux test and chest radiography or CT, CT or MRI of the brain and lumbar puncture when either lymphoma is suspected or if any potential for CNS involvement from a human immunodeficiency associated opportunistic infection. Diagnostic vitrectomy when appropriate and C individual criteria. So intermediate uveitis symptoms are painless floaters and decreased vision. So intermediate uveitis is painless. Patient will complain of floaters and decreased vision and minimal photophobia or external examination findings. So most often bilateral and classically affects patient's age 15 to 40 years. Signs are vitreous cells and aggregates floating predominantly in the inferior vitreous snowballs, and young patients may present with vitreous hemorrhage. White exudative material over the inferior ora serrata and pars plana snow banking is suggestive of pars planitis. Snow banking is typically in the inferior vitreous and can often be seen only with indirect ophthalmoscopy and scleral depression. Peripheral retinal vascular sheathing and other features like peripheral vascular sheathing and neovascularization, mild antechamber inflammation, CME, and posterior subcapsular cataract or band-shaped keratopathy, secondary glaucoma, ERM, and exudative retinal detachment. And posterior synechiae in partial antithesis is uncommon. If present, usually occur early in the course. So intermediate typically affects in young adults and insidious and chronic and frequently bilateral but asymmetric, usually present with floater. This vitritis, snowballs, and mild peripheral periphlebitis and snowbanking in the pars planitis and cystoid macular edema. So treatment is posterior subtenon steroids if vision is poor. Etiology more than 70% is idiopathic pars planitis and followed by sarcoidosis, multiple sclerosis, Lyme, syphilis, and toxocara. Others are inflammatory bowel disease, Bartonella and Whipple syndrome, and primary Sjögren's syndrome. Workup include complete ocular examination, include conioscopy to evaluate for possible neovascularization, and appropriate workup may include chest radiographer, CT, PPD, AC level, RPR, VDRL, and FTA antibody or treponemal assay. Consider fluorescein angiography under OCT to document CME or retinal vasculitis, and consider lab testing for Lyme's toxoplasma cat scratch in the appropriate clinical context. In older individual, consider workup for malignancy or lymphoma. Consider MRI of the brain or orbit with gadolinium to evaluate for demyelinating lesions if review of symptoms is positive for current or previous focal neurological deficits. Refer to neurologist for multiple sclerosis workup if it is necessary. Treatment include treat all vision threatening complications like CME, vitritis in symptomatic patient with active disease. Mild vitreous cell in the absence of symptoms or vision loss may be observed. Topical prednisolone acetate 1% or difluprednate 0.05% can be given. Consider subtenon steroid 0.5 to 1 ml injection of triamcinolone 40 mg per ml. May repeat the injections every 6 to 8 weeks until vision and CME have stabilized. Slowly taper the frequency of injections. Subtenon steroid injection must be used with caution in patients with steroid-induced glaucoma. If minimal improvement after 3 subtenon steroid injections, 1 to 2 months apart, consider systemic steroids like prednisolone 40 to 60 mg per oral daily for 4 to 6 weeks, tapering gradually according to the patient's response. High-dose systemic steroid therapy should be no longer than 2 to 3 months followed by taper to no more than 5 to 10 mg per day. Other options include sustained release steroid implant, dexamethasone implant. Note, in bilateral cases, systemic steroid therapy may be preferred to periocular injection. However, in children and adolescent, growth suppression in addition to usual complication of long-term systemic steroids is major concern. So transscleral cryotherapy to the area of snow banking should be considered in patients who fail to respond to either oral or subtenon corticosteroid and who have Neovascularization. Pars plana vitrectomy may be useful in cases refractory to systemic steroids or to treat vitreous opacification and tractional retinal detachment ERM and other complications. Additionally, vitreous biopsy through a pars plana vitrectomy may be indicated in cases of suspected masquerade syndrome, especially in intraocular lymphoma. Note: some physicians delay the steroid injections for several weeks to observe whether IOP increase on topical steroid response. If a marked steroid response is found, depot injection should be avoided. Topical NSAIDs are usually not effective in patients with uveitic CME. Cataracts are frequent complication of intermediate uveitis. If cataract extraction is performed, patients should ideally be free of inflammation for 3 months preceding the operation. Consider starting the patient on oral prednisolone 60 mg daily 5 days prior to the surgery and tapering the prednisolone over the next month. Consider a combined pars plana vitrectomy at the time of cataract surgery if significant vitreous opacification is present. Follow up in the acute phase. Patients are patients are re-evaluated in every 1 to 4 weeks depending on the severity of the condition. In chronic phase, re-examination is performed every 3 to 6 months, monitoring for neovascularization. So multiple sclerosis, in case of multiple sclerosis, 30% of MS patients will get uveitis. 15% of patients with pars planitis will eventually develop MS. In case of women 20 to 50 years and HLA DR2 and DR15 is positive, granulomatous anti-uveitis, intermediate uveitis, pan-uveitis can occur. Next come to anti-uveitis. Symptoms are in case of acute anti-uveitis, pain, redness and photophobia, and excessive tearing and decreased vision. Whereas in case of chronic anti-uveitis, decreased vision from cataract or vitreous debris or CME or epiretinal membrane and floaters. May have periods of exacerbations and remissions with few acute symptoms. Signs are cells and flare in the anterior chamber, ciliary injection, keratic precipitates. Fine keratic precipitates stellate typically covers entire corneal endothelium. Herpes simplex, varicella zoster or CMV or FUX heterochromic iridocyclitis will show the fine KPs. Small non-granulomatous KPs are seen in HLA-B27 associated uveitis, trauma, masquerade syndrome, and juvenile idiopathic arthritis and Schlossman syndrome, granulomatous cyclitis crisis, and drug-induced uveitis and granulomatous uveitis such as sarcoidosis can present with NGKP. So, granulomatous capes, large greasy mutton fat, mostly on the inferior cornea in sarcoidosis, syphilis, TB, and JIA associated and sympathetic ophthalmia, lens-induced and VKH syndrome. So, low IOP more commonly seen secondary to ciliary body hyposecretion. Elevated IOP can occur following herpetic or lens-induced and Fudge heterochromatic iridocyclitis and Posner Schlossman. Fibrin is seen in HLA-B27 or endophthalmitis and hypopion, HLA-B27 and Behçet and infectious endophthalmitis and rifabutin and tumor. So iris nodule, sarcoidosis, syphilis and TB, iris atrophy, herpes and oral fourth generation fluoroquinolone and iris heterochromia in fox and iris synechiae in HLA-B27 and sarcoidosis and pankeratopathy in JIA. Uveitis inequae consider JIA and FUX and CME. So signs of Fudge uveitis syndrome. Unilateral chronic anterior uveitis resistant to therapy. Keratic precipitates are small scattered throughout the endothelium and feathery filaments and no posterior synechiae, diffuse iris stromal atrophy. Occasionally iris nodules will be seen. Iris retroilluminations shows heterochromia iris affected eye usually hypochromic. Complications are cataract and angle new vessels and glaucoma. Differential diagnosis: intermediate panuveitis, traumatic iritis, Posner syndrome, and drug-induced and sclerouveitis. Uveitis secondary to scleritis typically present with profound pain and tenderness, and contact lens associated red eye, corneal edema, and epithelial defect, and bacterial keratitis. Infectious endophthalmitis, history of recent surgery or penetrating trauma, pain, hypopia, fibrinous anterior chamber reaction, vitritis, and decreased vision, and Schwarz-Matsous syndrome. Pigment released from a chronic retinal detachment clogs a typical meshwork and resulting in elevated IOP and tumor retinoblastoma in children, intraocular lymphoma in elderly, and metastatic disease in all ages, and pseudouveitis from pigment dispersion syndrome. So idiopathic, roughly half of the all anti-uveitis has no identifiable cause. HLA-B27 systemic associated ankylosing spondylitis, reactive arthritis, psoriatic, inflammatory bowel disease. Lens-induced immune reaction to lens proteins often secondary to incomplete cataract extraction, trauma, and with lens capsule damage or hypermature cataract. Post-operative iritis, antechamber inflammation following intraocular surgery, end of the lens must be considered if severe inflammation and pain are present. And uveitis glaucoma hyphema syndrome, usually secondary to irritation from intraocular lens, particularly a closed loop antechamber lens or single piece lens in the ciliary sulcus. Basal disease, young adult acute shifting hypopaean iritis after ulcer and genital ulcer. Lyme's disease may have history of tick bite and rash. Antersegment ischemia, flare out of proportion to cellular reaction, pain secondary to carotid insufficiency, tight scleral buckle or previous extraocular muscle surgeries. So, Tinnu syndrome, tubular interstitial nephritis uveitis syndrome, rare. Usually bilateral non-granulomatous uveitis in children and young adult, a female predilection. Other rare infectious causes are mumps, influenza, adeno, measles, chlamydia, leptospira, Kawasaki, rickettsial, and chikungunya virus. Acute anti-uveitis in young adults. Majority are men. 45% are positive for HLA-B27. Initially, no systemic disease. Minority subsequently develop ankylosing spondylitis. There is fibrinous exudates and residual pigments on the lens. And juvenile chronic iridocyclitis, majority are the girls. Initially, no systemic disease, and minority subsequently develop arthritis. Osteocyanicia, band-shaped keratopathy, and cataract formation in the late stage. Chronic anti-uveitis, acute anti-uveitis (JIA), usually occur in young girls, may be painless or and asymptomatic with minimal injection, often bilateral. Iritis may precede the typical polyarticular arthritis. Four or fewer joints are involved. Positive ANA and negative rheumatoid factor and increased ESR most commonly seen associated with glaucoma, cataract, and band-shaped keratopathy and CME. Uveitis may occur in polyarticular and rarely in systemic JIJ Still's disease. So, chronic iridocyclitis of children usually occur in young girls, similar to JIA in signs and symptoms, but lack arthritis. And first few symptoms, diffuse iris stromal atrophy, often causing a light color iris with transillumination defects. Sarcoidosis is more common in Africans, Americans, Scandinavians, usually bilateral, can have extensive posterior synechiae and conjunctival iris nodules. Herpes simplex or varicella zoster, diffuse KP, increased IOP, iris atrophy, history of unilateral recurrent red eye, occasionally history of skin vesicle. Syphilis, anterior intermediate uveitis most common, may have maculopapular rash and iris roseola, vascular papules on the iris, and interstitial keratitis with ghost vessels in the late stages. And inflammation of any ocular structure may occur, and placoid chorioretinitis is virtually pathognomonic. Neurocellular can cause meningismus. Tuberculosis, positive protein PPD derivative, Montus test, and a typical chest appearance. Others, leprosy and brucellosis. Juvenile idiopathic arthritis, most common systemic disorder associated with iridocyclitis in children. Iritis develops within 5 to 7 years of onset of joint disease. Risk factors, female polyarticular onset and NA. Negative rheumatoid factor, eye is usually white and non-inflamed. Some patients do not have pain. Ocular findings, fine cavities, flare cells, Osteocyanicia, cataract glaucoma, band-shaped keratopathy, macular edema, and chronic hypertonia and phthisis. Juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So, first, unilateral uveitis, heterochromia, iris atrophy, small white stellate capitis, synechia almost never forms, but glaucoma and cataract can occur. Association with Toxoplasma HSV or CMV can occur. Idiopathic iridocyclitis, in many cases of chronic iridocyclitis, the cause is unknown. Investigations up to obtain thorough history and review of systems, specifically ask about fever, chills, cough, shortness of breath, joint pain, swelling the area, blood in the stool, or skin rash, or oral genital ulcer, Autoimmune diseases are less common in very young and very old. So in these extreme age groups, consider masquerades. So complete ocular examination include IOP checkup, gonioscopy, dilated fundus, and vitreous for cells. Laboratory workup may be unnecessary in certain situations, like first episode of mild unilateral non-granulomatous uveitis with history and examination that is not suggestive of any systemic disease. Uveitis in the setting of known systemic disease such as sarcoidosis or use of medicines known to cause uveitis like rifabutin. Clinical findings are classic for particular diagnosis, herpetic keratouveitis or toxoplasma or FHS. In all other situations requiring a laboratory and diagnostic testing, performing a targeted workup is recommended. If too many tests are ordered unnecessarily, a portion of them may come back false positive and confuse the diagnosis. However, if a patient presents with bilateral granulomatous recurrent uveitis without suspected diagnosis, our practice is to at least we evaluate for sarcoidosis, syphilis, and TB. Consider additional workup as needed. RPR or venereal disease laboratory also need confirmatory tests such as FDA antibodies and monitor test and chest X-ray and CT and ACE levels, lysozyme levels, and Lyme's antibody in endemic area, HLA-B27 in unilateral, acute, or bilateral alternating antiretrovirus, especially if hypopan is present. Antichamber paracensis for PCR reaction for suspected cases of CMV, herpes, varicella zoster. Note, in children with uveitis, it is recommended to perform ANA, RF, HLA-B27, urine analysis, and renal function test. Evaluation for systemic disease by pediatric rheumatologist may be warranted. Treatment cycloplegic, cyclopentolate for mild to moderate inflammation, atropine for severe inflammation, and topical steroids depending on the severity. And if there is no improvement, with maximal topical and systemic steroids, depository steroids. If the uveitis is bilateral and severe, consider systemic steroids or immunosuppressive therapy. Consider referral to uveitis specialist or rheumatologist. Treat secondary glaucoma with aqueous suppressants. Avoid pilocarpine and glaucoma may result from and cellular blockade of the trabecular meshwork. So secondary angle neovascularization from Seneca formation will be there, and neovascularization of the iris and angle. We have to follow this. If an exact etiology for antibiotics is determined, then additional ocular and systemic management may be indicated. Like in case of ankylosing spondylitis, often requires systemic anti-inflammatory agents such as NSAIDs. Consider consulting rheumatology, physical therapy, and cardiology, because cardiomegaly and conduction defects and aortic insufficiency will be there. In case of IBD, often benefits from systemic steroids, sulfadiazine, other immunosuppressive agents obtain gastrointestinal consult, and reactive arthritis, previously known as Reiter syndrome. If urethritis is present, then patient and sexual partners are treated for chlamydia. Single dose azithromycin 1 gram per oral. Obtain medical and rheumatology or urology consult. Psoriatic arthritis, consider dermatology or rheumatology consult. And glaucomatous lens injuries usually require removal of lens matter. Herpetic uveitis typically require topical or oral antivirals and steroid drops for non-epithelial corneal disease. Herpetic iridocyclitis benefits from topical steroids and systemic antiviral medications. As topical antivirals are ineffective for uveitis due to poor intraocular penetration. JA steroid dosage is adjusted according to the degree of anterior chamber cells not clear. Prolonged cycloplegic therapy may be required. Consult rheumatology or pediatrics as systemic steroid therapy or immunomodulator therapy is often needed. Regular follow-up is essential as flares may be asymptomatic. Recurrent and chronic can lead to irreversible damage and various sequelae, including synechial glaucoma and CME cataract formation. Cataract surgery in patients with JIA associated uveitis has high complication rate. Avoid cataract surgery if possible until patient inflammation is free for at least 3 months. An IOL may be placed in selected circumstances. Chronic iridocyclitis of children, same as JIA, and first usually doesn't respond to or require steroids. A trial of steroids may be attempted, but they should be tapered quickly if there is no response. Cycloplegics are not necessary. Note, patients with Fauci disease usually do well with cataract surgery. However, they may develop a hyphema, Amsler's sign. Tuberculosis, refer the patient to an infectious disease specialist. Ankylosing spondylitis, there will be low back pain, stiffness, men of 20 to 40, HLA-B27 positive. Diagnosis is by sacroiliac imaging study, bamboo spine, ocular findings, acute anterior 5 prim, and hypopion not uncommon. Reactive arthritis triad, non-specific arthritis, polyarthritis, conjunctivitis often accompanied by iritis, HLA-B27, 95%. Young adult men, arthritis in knees, ankles, feet, and sacroiliitis in 70% of patients. Ocular findings, mucopurulent and papillary conjunctivitis, and acute non-granulomatous iritis in 10%. Inflammatory bowel disease, 12% of ulcerative colitis patients and 2.4% of Crohn's disease patients develop acute anterior uveitis, and 20% have sacroiliitis, 60% are HLA-B27 positive. Psoriatic arthritis, inflammatory arthritis occur in 30% of patients with chronic psoriasis. Cutaneous changes and distal phalangeal joint inflammation and angular involvement, 20% may have sacroiliitis, 25% develop iritis. Leukocytosis crisis, recurrent unilateral mild acute iritis, elevated IOP, corneal edema, fine capish, low-grade cell and fair slightly dilated pupil, duration hours to days, B54 association. Lens-associated uveitis, immune reaction to lens material, granulomatous and non-granulomatous. Capish can be small or large, cells mild to moderate, and hypopia and positioning elevated IOP with retitis bulbi, persistent uveitis or glaucoma can occur in these. Post-operative IOL associated implantation. Drug-induced uveitis, systemic rifabutin, bisphosphonates, sulfonamides, and diethyl carbamazine, cidofovir, topical metoprolol and myotics, prostaglandin analog, intracameral cidofovir, antibiotics, and urokinase and vaccines. Follow up every 1 to 7 days in acute phase, depending on severity, every 1 to 6 months when the patient is stable. At each visit, the anterior reaction and IOP should be evaluated, and vitreous and fundus examination should be performed in all flare-ups when vision is affected or every 3 to 6 months. Macular edema is a frequent cause of decreased vision. Even after the uveitis is controlled, OCT can be very useful. If the anti-chamber reaction has resolved, then steroid drops can be tapered slowly with intermittent examination to ensure that inflammation does not return during the tapering. So steroids usually discontinued following the taper when the antechamber doesn't have any cellular reaction. Occasionally, long-term low dose every day are required to keep the inflammation from recurring. Punctal occlusion techniques may increase the potency of the drugs and decrease the systemic absorption, and cycloplegic agents can also be tapered off as the antechamber reaction improves and no post-systemic are noted. Thank you.